For the first time, that was junior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
in 2016.
What is the qualification process just time related? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
It's different than the way the U.S. and a lot of major countries do it, because in Egypt we don't have that many people making it in that specific race. So the reason countries have time trials or not time trials, but Olympic trials kind of competitions is because they have way too many people making that standard that is set by the World Aquatics Organization. And in Egypt, we don't have that many people making it. So all I have to do is hit that standard that the Americans are aiming at. So it's still the same standard that they have to meet.
Yeah.
I just don't need to go to Olympic trials in Egypt. I just can go
wherever the trials
to a competition here in the States. And that's the nice part about it, because I don't have to travel all the way across the globe.
Gotcha.
And that can mess with my training, can mess with my recovery and all that. So I can just go to the competition that's approved by that organization and aim at it, and hopefully that will get you there.
How many opportunities do you have to qualify for it then throughout the year when they're having those like official events?
Right. So like as an example, Paris 2024 is coming up, and the qualification times start in March of this year and they end in June of next year. Okay. So each competition is usually about a year and a half of giving you a shot at training, and then going to different competitions, and then try to make it at one of those competitions.
Are you actively training for the new one? Okay, so you're basically in the middle of training
in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
And I mean, there's no rush really. I tried to qualify to the Olympics in 2019. In May 2019, so that's about a year before the Olympics was supposed to happen. Obviously, COVID kind of changed that. Yeah. And I was off by 3 100s.
It's so close.
Yeah, so I went 22 seconds 05, 100ths of a second. I was supposed to do 22:02. Yeah. And I ended up going that time. I went 21:98 in South Korea at the end of that year, and that was what helped me qualify. Okay. Which was great, because as you know, the year that came after it was a bunch of uncertainty and a bunch of COVID. Which was really unpleasant for a lot of swimmers and a lot of athletes around the world who didn't know, if they'd made it or they didn't make it to the Olympic Games, and they had to wait and see how things were going to go.
So obviously you have this moment, you qualify, right? And then it hits you. You're like, I'm going to Rio. Like you probably, it takes you a while to get the adrenaline down, and then you actually sit at home a few days later and you're like, you know what? Like, I'm going. How do we plan all this stuff, right? Like, how do I, and then you probably have phone calls with everyone back home of like the associations and the federations, and like, hey, we didn't book the tickets and plan everything. I mean, what's that process like of just, then it gets real, right? Then like, I'm going, now we have to prepare for the Olympic Games and all of that stuff. And then Rio was the one where they were all worried about that virus too, right?
The virus
was people pulling out because that Rio was the one that golf was at for the first time in a long time, I believe. And some of the big golfers were like, no, we're not going, because I think it was Zika, maybe.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar.
It was a big deal, right? Because you guys were all kind of in like camps
in the village,
in the village, But tell me about going. I mean, what's that whole process of like getting ready to go, and I mean, all of that.
So from making it all the way, so I made it in March, and the competition was maybe like July or August, August actually. So just this period, and that was actually my second world level kind of competition with Egypt, and the first one didn't end up going very well. So the first one was in 2015 in World Championships in Kazan, and that was a good wake-up call at what world stage competitions are like, because I'm walking out to one of my events and I'm looking up at the stands. There's 10,000 people in the stands. I'm used to 50 people at college or high school or something. There's not that many people. So I went back and just after 2015 kind of try to visualize, okay, do I just not look at the stands, or do I just learn to adapt to it? So in 2016, when I went to the Olympics, that was the second time for me to compete on an international level, and that was also the second time I look at the big stands, and that was double the size of Kazan in 2015. So I was just doing a lot of visualizations through that time, working really hard, training really hard, and a lot of the Olympians that also ended up going there from Indiana it was just really nice to see a lot of my teammates make it, and on the
really?
U.S. team, yeah. So there was actually a total of 11 Olympians from Indiana that ended up going between swimming and diving, and that was just a really great moment because I've
really
shared
cool.
the podium with them a few months earlier at national competitions and Big Ten competitions, and then to see them again at the Olympics and also see the head coach of Indiana there, it just proved that not only did I make the right decision, but this is a team that wants to continue and wants to be successful.